Hello YouTube, another video here today. Today we're going to talk about calibers and felt recoil. Where's a good place to start? What's a good way to train new shooters? How do you get them started? Where do you start them? So what calibers have the most felt recoil and which are best for new shooters? So there's lots to consider, but we'll start off. Everybody knows probably 22 long rifle is great for any new shooter. It'd be a great starting point because there's very little felt recoil. It's quieter than a centerfire or a 22 Win Mag rifle, which it's loud. The report is something a lot of new shooters have to get used to. Pistol or rifle, both are very easy to shoot with 22. It's economical, or at least it will be eventually. Right now prices suck. And the gun can be lightweight and have little recoil. So if they're not good at holding up a very heavy, full 1911, something like this, even if you made the gun lighter, you're not going to make the recoil impulse that much stronger since it's a 22. 22s just, they're just great for training new shooters because they get them introduced to it, they make it fun, they don't anticipate the sound as much, they don't anticipate the recoil as much. It's just a great place to start with anybody. I wouldn't suggest doing it right now since prices suck and you can't find ammo, but eventually you should go out there if you can get a brick of 22. So when you started training a new shooter, do not make a common mistake. I want to shoot the little one, it's cute, or that gun doesn't look like it would recoil very much. Something like this Car CM9. This is a terrible, terrible gun to start a new shooter on. While it may be fun for some people to shoot, the smaller guns and hit really well with them and connect very well, a bigger gun it's easier to shoot, and a lot of people don't know that. But the lightweight small guns have more felt recoil. There's less to grab onto. Usually they have a 2 or 3 finger. They have a 2-finger grip instead of they have a 3 instead of a 4. You don't get the pinky on there. They have a shorter sight radius, and you have a greater chance of lip wristing, which can lead to failures. So even though I can make this car a little bit bigger by adding this longer magazine, just because I can do that still doesn't mean it's great to start new shooters on. All that's going to do is discourage them from wanting to shoot, because if you start them on something like that, it's going to be bad, and I'll elaborate on that later. So heavier guns are not something to shy away from. They make perfect guns to train new shooters. Hear every time, oh, that gun's so heavy, it must recoil a lot. Well, the heavy gun counteracts the recoil because gravity pulls on it more. So when you have a heavier gun, you have less felt recoil, you have a full grip, typically there's a full grip, you have a longer sight radius, so it's easier to hit what you're shooting at, not as much flinching. They have a better trigger generally, and they have better functionality. So I guess a great one, it would be something like this. I've trained new shooters on this 1911 before. So even though this is a very heavy gun, yes, it shoots a 45, it's a very heavy gun, it's big, it's a lot to grab onto. This is great for training a new shooter because even though it's heavy, even though it's really heavy and it's got a lot of substance to it, it's kind of hard to hold it up like this for so long. It's great for training new shooters because the recoil impulse isn't strong. They have a really, really good sharp sight radius here with these really good sights. The trigger on this thing, of course, as you know, any 1911 has a great trigger. This may spoil them. You may want to shy away from that, but has a really, really good trigger. They have better functionality too because any gun with a short action has a greater chance of failing just because the bigger ones can spread out the recoil spring longer instead of having to make them real short and stiff. So what have I trained new shooters on? Well, besides 22s, of my full-size ones, the only one I don't have here is my Beretta, but I'm sure you've seen it before. My Ruger SR9C and my Smith & Wesson 1911. But wait, so your Ruger, I thought your Ruger only has, a 3-finger grip. Well, it does, unless you add the full-size magazine that it came with, and now you have a full-size grip. I strongly suggest if you get a new shooter into shooting, you start them on something like this compact or this full size where you can get all your hands on it and there still isn't a lot of felt recoil and it's still not harsh on your hands. Even though you can get a full grip on this subcompact car, it's still not a good one to start them on. If this was the longer version and not the subcompact, yeah, maybe so, I can see it. But something like this, they're not going to enjoy, although these Talon grips do make it easier to shoot. So what will be a good caliber? Well, all these have a good weight to caliber ratio. And what I mean is the higher the caliber, the heavier the gun gets. So this 1911, even though it's a 45, has very little recoil impulse. But then again, the law of, I guess one of the laws of physics, inertia, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, whatever a law that is, although that's in play, you could start somebody on a full-size polymer 45. That's not to discourage them by just saying, oh, well, this 45 is heavy, this should be the only 45 you train them on. You just need to make sure they're comfortable with it first, and use your best judgment to see if you think that would be good. So what would be a good place to start? I have 22 long rifles the best, but for a semi-auto, I think 9mm, 45, or 38. Why do I not say 40? 40 and 357 SIG are high pressure rounds. You always hear about the snappy recoil of it compared to a 45, and there is some facts to that. It's a high pressure round, so it creates faster slide speed, which leads to more muzzle flip and more felt recoil, and it's harder on the shooter's hands. So just imagine this is in 40. The slide isn't going to come back slowly. Even though 45 is a heavier bullet than 40, the slide is going to come back really, really quickly. It's going to have a lot of flip in 40 caliber. That's just the nature of the round. The same with 357 SIG. It's just a high pressure round. You can't avoid it. That's just something it is. But those would be my takes for revolvers and semi-autos. 9 or 45 and 38 for a revolver. Do not make this mistake if you're training a new shooter, and I hate seeing videos like this. Do not put a large gun in a new shooter's hands. It makes new shooters afraid of shooting. Do not do this. After Joe Biden suggested a 12 gauge shotgun for home defense, somebody compiled a whole list of girls shooting pistol grip stockless shotguns and big rifles and putting their face up to scopes. Although I guess there's some humor to that. Maybe I'm just a stickler and don't know how to have fun, but I think that is a terrible idea for putting a big gun in a new shooter's hands, or handing them a Desert Eagle, having them get hit in the face, or giving them a 44 Magnum and watch it go flying out of their hands. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. It discourages new shooters from wanting to get into it. It makes them afraid of shooting, and it works against exactly what we're trying to show them, is that shooting can be really fun. But you have to start somewhere and you have to work your way up to somewhere. I think one of the larger caliber revolvers would be a place to maybe go to later, but as a start, that's not a good place to go. You could use 38 for a revolver to train new shooters, but as I said before, you want something that's got a lot of weight to it, got something that you can grip a lot like this. So something like a Ruger LCR or a Smith & Wesson Airweight would not be a good place to start a new shooter. It's going to deter them from wanting to shoot. Start them with a full-size, well, either a full-size or a compact handgun with a full grip. So like this SR9C with a full-size grip, or a 1911 or my Beretta, as I have listed. So somewhere in there, Glock, XD, M&P, the usual polymer handguns would also be really good for starting new shooters. But I would suggest you stay 945 or 38, or if you can, start at 22. That would be ideal. So this is Big Apple signing out. Hope you enjoyed.